Hello, teenagers. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, for logging in and just taking the time out of your Wednesday night to come to our online church, the YouTube channel, however you're watching it. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And it's really a mature decision you're making to just carve out a period, 30 minutes, however long we are, to try to invest in yourself spiritually. So thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. I know you're probably ready to be back to normal church, probably ready to see your friends, maybe in school or in church, whatever it may be, but it looks like we're still going to be quarantined for a few more weeks, but I hope your spirits are high. Hope you're making the most of it. Hope you're enjoying extra time with your family or extra time to relax. I know most of you guys are still doing school online, so I hope you're not cheating on your online test or quizzes or whatever it is, but I hope that you're still trying to carry on with life as much as you can in that way. I want to have a word of prayer, and then I want to talk about a challenge, a devotional tonight that I think will be a help to you. But let's have a word of prayer and we'll begin. Dear God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to still have a way to communicate to each other, God. I am so grateful for the teenagers who made the effort to watch tonight, Lord. And I pray that the time wouldn't be wasted, Lord, and it wouldn't be taken for granted, but it'd be a time where you could speak to us through your word, God. And we thank you so much for everything you've given us in our lives, Lord. I pray that you'd continue to be with those who are working as public servants, Lord, those who work in healthcare, and those who have been affected by this epidemic. God, just continue to have your hand of blessing on this country and on the world, Lord, and help us to see the light and the truth that you share with us through all of this, God. Amen. So tonight, with Mother's Day coming up, I want to talk about a story in the Bible that has to deal with mothers. So do me a favor, if you're a mom in the room right now with your teenagers, that's awesome. We love you, but please leave, all right? We're going to talk about mothers. We're going to talk about Mother's Day coming up, and it just makes it even more awkward if you're a teenager watching that and your mom's right there, right? So no matter how much you love your teenager, I understand, but please give them some time where they can just listen to this without their mom making it weird for them right there. If you don't understand that as a mom, maybe your teen can break it down for you, but trust me, it's just weird to talk about Mother's Day, talk about that issue when your mom is right there. So go read a book, go listen to some music, enjoy yourself, and we'll just be 15 minutes or so talking about a story in the Bible about mothers. And this story is found in John chapter 19, verse 25 through 27. And as soon as I say that reference, teenagers, maybe many of you already recognize the story or know what's going on in this chapter. And we know that John is a gospel and it tells the account of Jesus. And here we find Jesus in his last moments before he dies on the cross. And we see that even during these last moments, through all the important spiritual things that are happening in the death of Jesus, we see just a few verses, just 2 or 3 verses that have to deal with his mother and all this. And I think it really speaks to how high Jesus held the position of a mother with the fact that he took care of his mother during these 3 verses. And we'll talk more about that, but please open your Bibles to John chapter 19, verse 25 through 27. And as you find your text there, let me give kind of a just a statement before we begin. As we talk about mothers, as we talk about the position of a mother, please understand that that doesn't always necessarily mean the woman who gave birth to you, or the mother by blood, or the direct mother that you have. Sometimes there's teenagers or there's those who aren't fortunate enough to have that woman in their life. Sometimes a grandmother takes the position of a mother. Sometimes a stepmother takes the position of a mother. I've even seen aunts sometimes, or older sisters. Sometimes in the world we live in, things can be complicated. And sometimes the position of a mother is held by somebody who isn't necessarily a child's mother. So as I talk about mothers throughout this time, please understand that I'm including stepmothers. I'm including anybody in your life who has the position or the attributes of a mom. And some of you may not understand that very much, and some of you may completely know what I'm talking about. I, for instance, grew up with my mom. I didn't have any sort of split family or anything like that. And I have my blood mother who raised me, but I know some teenagers out there are raised by a grandmother or a stepmother, and there's so many different situations. But tonight we're going to talk about any woman, any lady who has held the position of a mother in your life. So let's go ahead and read John chapter 19, verse 25 through 27. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother. So we can picture the scene. Jesus has already been beaten. He's already been tortured, and he's hanging on the cross, and we know that he's in agony. We know that from the whipping, that it was a horrendous sight, that flesh was just hanging off his bones, that there was blood dripping from his body, that he was exhausted. And we can picture him there on the cross, and we see that his mother was there with him. And his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. So his mother was there, but she wasn't alone. She had other ladies with him and with her to support her. But can you imagine, it's probably very hard for young people and even myself to imagine the position of a mother. But being a parent, looking at your child who's not only losing their life, but who is being persecuted, who is miserable, going through all this pain. It's probably one of the hardest things that Mary ever had to face as she looked at her son Jesus on the cross. And we see in verse 26, when Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple standing by, whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. So we see Jesus going through all this pain. He probably had sweat running into his eyes, and he could probably, from exhaustion, barely keep his eyes open, but he had enough effort to open his eyes, and he saw his mother there. And he saw the disciples that made it as well that were around him, and he decided at that time, despite the pain, despite all the focus being on him, he decided to reach out and do something for his mother. And verse 27 says this, Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from the hour that disciple took her unto his home. So a very simple statement that Jesus uttered to his mother and to the disciple. But the disciple, the beloved disciple, which most believe is John, knew exactly what Jesus meant. When Jesus said, Behold thy mother, John knew that Jesus was telling John, hey, I'm going to leave now, but take care of my mom. This is going to be a hard time for her, but she took care of me, so please take care of my mother. And we see that Jesus made it very important to make sure that as he left, his mother was taken care of. And many of us right now, we have our mothers in our life, and we have different situations with our moms, and there's so many different personalities and situations. But I think as we look at the story of Jesus, as we review the verses that we just read, we can all learn something on how to treat and honor and hold our mothers to a position that God would want us to hold them to. So tonight I want to talk about 3 reasons we should love our mothers like Jesus loved his mother. 3 reasons we should love our mothers like Jesus loved his mother. And yes, this message is inspired and it's coming because of Mother's Day right around the corner, but this is a message that we should really hold for our entire lives any time of the year. The fact that God commands and desires for us to treat our parents and our mothers a specific way. So the first reason I want to talk about why we should love our mothers is because each of our mothers is unique. Now we look at Jesus' mother, Mary, and we know that Mary wasn't just an ordinary lady. Well, we know that she came from humble beginnings, but it wasn't by chance that God chose Mary to be the mother of Jesus. We know that God chose Mary specifically and uniquely to be the mother of the Savior, to be the mother of Jesus. But listen to this, teenager. We look at the fact that Mary was chosen uniquely, but remember this, God chose your mother just as much as he chose Jesus' mother. God hand chose your family, hand chose your parents just like he chose the parents of Jesus. So believe it or not, your mother is unique. Your mother is special because God chose her. Whoever the lady who holds the position of a mother in your life, God chose her to be your family. God chose her to have that position in your life. And we see that position can, like we talked about, can be held by so many different people, but there's also so many different personalities. You know, teenager, you may look at your mom, and then you may look at a friend's mom or other people's mom, and sometimes, as awful as it can sound, I think it's natural as a child and natural as a teenager to compare our parents with other people's parents, to compare our mom and dad with other people's mom and dad. And you can say, man, their mom and dad lets them stay up later. Their mom and dad has way less strict rules for them. They let them watch this movie or listen to this or do this. And you can start to compare. And sometimes you can even start to wish that your parents acted the way that maybe your friends' parents do. But it's important for us to realize that God specifically gave us our parents to raise us. We have parents that have specific personalities, strengths, and weaknesses to help raise us with our unique personalities, strengths, and weaknesses. So as you become a teenager, it can be a difficult time because it finally starts to click. When you turn 13, 14, 15, it finally starts to click that, hey, my parents aren't perfect. You know, as a kid, sometimes you can be convinced that your dad and your mom are just perfect and they do everything the right way and they just provide everything you need. And then when you start turning 13, 14, 15, start getting older, you start realizing, guess what? Your parents are human. You start realizing that they make mistakes, that they have weaknesses just like you. And many times we can become bitter against that, but we have to remember that God gave us that parent, God gave us that mother with her humor and her personality and her strengths and her weaknesses and her quirkiness or however she embarrasses you. God gave you her on purpose for a specific reason. And you cannot choose a better mother for yourself than what God chose for you. God already picked her out for you. You can't compare a friend's mom or compare another parent and think that they'd be better in your life because God knows what you need. Now imagine, of course you can look it up, of course you can think mothers in history or mothers of different parents who did a horrible job as a mother, who maybe didn't even seem like they cared about their kids. God even handpicked that mother for that situation. Maybe that child learned a lot from the parents' mistakes. Maybe instead of them being taught by the parents, they just learned from their mistakes. No matter how hard of a position it was, God still chose that position for that person to be in. So no matter what mistakes your parents may make, your mother may make, no matter how different they may seem than any other mother, remember that God chose them specifically for you and that they're unique. We see that Mary was unique. We see that Mary was chosen specifically by God to be the mother of Jesus. What an honor that would be. What a privilege that would be, and a hard responsibility as well. But God knew the exact woman that he wanted for the job, the exact mother that he needed. And he did the same thing for your life. You see, God is omniscient, he's all-knowing, and he can look ahead in your life before you were even born, and he knew exactly the type of mother you needed. And he knew exactly how to prepare her and how to bring your lives together in a way that could raise you to honor and glorify God. I realize not every mother's perfect. I realize some of you may even have moms that aren't Christians, that make mistakes. But God still wants you to honor them, to love them, and to obey them because they were chosen to be your parent by God. We see first we should love our mothers because they're unique. Secondly, because your mom has a hard job. Because being a mother is a hard job. And of course, I can't speak of that myself from personal experience, but I can say that I made my mom's job very hard in high school. I don't know if that really counts, but I know that moms have such a hard job, and my mom raised me and my brother, and I can think of all the trouble just me and him caused her throughout the years that we were at home. But I look at other families who have 5, 6, 7 kids, and I just don't understand how moms can even do that, how they can hold down all those responsibilities and just take care of all those kids at the same time. But we see that mothers have a hard job. And that comes from our text just thinking about the fact of Mary. Think of how hard of a job Mary had raising Jesus. Now you might think, what are you talking about? Jesus was God. He was probably a perfect child. Mary probably didn't have any problems raising him. Maybe not in that sense, but there was probably a whole another level of difficulty that Mary had to face. The fact that she was raising the Son of God, that she gave birth to Jesus, the Messiah, came with all its separate problems. Think of when Jesus was teaching in the temple as a child, and his parents left on their journey, and they were 3 days away from Jesus, and they found out that Jesus wasn't in the camp. He wasn't with family, friends. He wasn't around anybody else, but Jesus was back where they came from. Think of the stress that Mary had to go through with that. So we know that being a mother is a hard job. So before you just criticize your mother, before you just write her off as out of touch with your life or ununderstanding, think about the hard job that each and every one of our mothers have. Think about the fact that when you were a newborn, all the work your mother did to take care of you, all the sleepless nights, all the dirty diapers, everything else that had to go into being a mother. Think of everything they've already sacrificed for you in your life. And you know, that doesn't stop at a teenager, because I'm in my 20s now and I still talk to my mom every week, and I still am encouraged by her, and I still have a relationship with her. So moms have different roles throughout your life when you're a baby, when you're a child, when you're a teenager, and even when you're an adult. And it's always can be a difficult job for them. So respect the work that your mother has done for you. Respect the sacrifices that she has made for you. Jesus did. Jesus on the cross had a great appreciation for his mother. He realized the hard job that she had to go through. And I hope each and every one of you teenagers, guy or girl, can respect the work that your mother has put into your life and the hard job and the difficult job that she has had. And you know, sometimes there's mothers who are stay-at-home moms, and there's sometimes mothers who work full-time or part-time jobs. There's all different kind of roles that mothers can take, but I know each and every one of them have made sacrifices for their children. Sometimes mothers work second jobs and do different things just for the child, just to raise money for your education or your college education or for your clothing or insurance or anything like that. Moms will sacrifice what it takes to take care of their child, and I hope and pray that each and every one of us appreciate that and realize the hard job that our mothers do for us. The third reason I want to talk about is that mothers are undervalued. That mothers are undervalued. So we see first that our mothers are unique, that our mothers have a hard job, and thirdly, that mothers are undervalued. Now we see Jesus on the cross going through all this pain. It probably hurt to say any words at all. It probably hurt to open his eyes at all. But yet, he opened his eyes and he looked at his mother and he found the air and he found the breath to speak these words and tell John to take care of his mother. In the midst of the most important thing ever happening in history, and one of the most painful deaths that somebody could face, Jesus took the time and the effort to honor his mother, to give value to his mother. He completely went out of his way to do that. Now, teenager, let me ask you this. When's the last time you went out of your way to give value to your mother? Was it last year on Mother's Day? I hope not. I hope it happens on a more regular basis than that, because they definitely deserve it. You know, I understand that you're going to fight with your mom. I understand that you can have disagreements with your mom. I understand that you may even criticize your mom, but I hope that is a small percentage in how high you praise her. I hope your praises for your mom, the value for your mom, the compliments for your mom greatly outweigh any confrontation or conflict that you have with her. Because our mothers deserve to be valued. And Jesus did that. What a great example Jesus set on the cross when he gave value to his mother. Can I encourage you guys, even if you're a senior, even if you're 17 or 18, you're almost an adult, practically an adult, always give honor to your mother. You may be bigger than her now, you may be stronger than her now, but always hold her up with honor and value and with love, because she's done so much for you. And think of what Jesus did on the cross. Think of the example he set, and we should honor and take care of our mothers the same way that Jesus took care of his mother Mary. So how can we do that? How can we have practical ways in our life that we honor our mothers like Jesus honored his mother? We talked about our mothers being unique. We talked about that our mothers have a hard job, and we talked about mothers being undervalued. And I wanted to share those 3 points with you to talk about how special and how much our mothers deserve our love. But I want to leave you with ways that you can show that love, with ways that you can have a better relationship with your mom. And these are practical things. They don't necessarily come from our text, but I believe they are from biblical principles, and I believe they can be a help to you. So the first thing I want you to think about is cherishing the moments with your mother. Cherishing the moments with your mother. If you thought about your life right now, all the way in the past, how many memories with your mother can you think of? How many good memories, humorous, funny stories can you think of with your mom? Are you cherishing those moments? Are you making more moments with your mother? I'll never forget, I think it was my freshman year home from college. We were going on a summer road trip, and we were taking my grandparents with us, so we had to take 2 separate cars, and we were taking the cars to my aunt and uncle's house in Idaho, just a couple states over. They had a new home on a farm, and we were going to go stay with them for a few days. And I remember my father was in a car with my grandparents, and then me and my mom were in another car, so it was just me and my mom. And we were going down the interstate of Idaho. I think it was Iowa, actually, not Idaho. If you know anything about the Midwest, all the states just blend together. It's all cornfields. It really doesn't matter. It was one of those states that we were traveling to. But anyway, we were going on the interstate through all these fields on the left and right, just open plains, and then the GPS told us to take a right. And of course, my mom trusts the GPS, and she just took a right. And we went from a 3-lane interstate to a gravel road going over a railroad track. And you know, we were a little suspicious of it, but there was no way to turn around. So we went ahead over this railroad track, and then it was just a hill straight down after that. And the only problem was that it was raining that entire day. So that gravel quickly turned into a complete mud trail through cornfields in the middle of Iowa. And I remember my mom was just being hilarious the whole time we were trying to drive through this. We stopped at one point, we thought we were stuck, and we called my dad, and we were going to try to figure out a tow truck and all these things. And then my mom pressed she had a Subaru at the time, and she pressed the little boost button. I don't even know if those things do anything. They always advertise like, oh, the boost on the little 4-cylinder vehicles. I don't know if they actually do anything besides light up the LED light, but it gave my mom completely new confidence, because after that, she just pressed her foot on the gas, and we started plowing through this mud, and it was covering the vehicle. It was flying up on the windshield. We had to turn the windshield wipers on, and she was screaming the whole time, and it was 3 minutes of this chaos of us sliding left and right, going 3 miles an hour, trying to get through this muddy cornfield without getting stuck, without getting stranded. And believe it or not, we actually made it through the complete field onto a normal road. And our car completely had changed colors. It was completely covered in mud afterwards. And that's a memory that I'm never going to forget with my mom. It's a memory that I'll cherish, that I thought was funny, that I'll take with me. And when I look back at growing up, I'm sure there were some times when I fought with my mom. I'm sure there were some times when we had disagreements, but I remember the good times, the funny memories, way more than I remember any of those other memories. And I hope that you're the same way. If you don't have fights with your mother, well, something's probably wrong with you, all right? Because it's natural to get in disagreements. It's natural to get in conflicts with your parents as a teenager. But I hope when you look back at your life, you cherish the positive memories that you've made with your mom. I hope they greatly outweigh any fights or conflicts that you may have. After cherish the memories, I want to talk about the counterpart of that, which is letting go of the bitterness. Letting go of any bitterness. You see, sometimes teenagers have conflicts with their parents, father or mother, but sometimes they let that bitterness just last their entire life. That last years and years longer than it should be, instead of letting go. And instead of cherishing moments or cherishing a relationship with their mom, they let a conflict or a fight turn into bitterness that just completely separates them from the person that God put in their life. And the Bible tells us we're supposed to obey our parents at a young age, and we're supposed to honor them with our entire life. But so many times we let bitterness take hold, like many other relationships in our life, and it can just put a huge wall between you and the relationship with your mother. And it's not what God wants, and it's not what you should want, and it's probably not what your parents would want either. And teenagers, I understand sometimes when you go through your different years as a teenager, there's going to be certain years where you connect with your parents better, and maybe years where you don't as much. But can I encourage you to try as hard as you possibly can to get rid of any bitterness that Satan tries to put in your life between your parents. Bitterness never comes from God. Bitterness is never the Christian thing. It's never your only solution. Bitterness is a sin, and it doesn't have to be there. It doesn't have to be between you and your parents. And you will enjoy your home life and your relationship with your mother so much more if you can get rid of that bitterness. Just focus on the good things. Focus on the humor and the good memories that you've made instead of focusing on the small conflicts or the disagreements. We see cherish the moments, let go of the bitterness. And thirdly, the thing I want to talk about is making your appreciation known. Making your appreciation known. You may realize the hard work your mother's done. You may love her. You may have all these great things to say about your mom, but do you share that with her? Do you let your appreciation be made known to her? You might say, oh, it's awkward. You don't understand. My mom starts crying if I say anything nice to her. Whatever it may be, make sure your appreciation is known to your mom. And what better time to do it than this week as Mother's Day is around the corner. Now, your mom may be hard to shop for. You may just get her a gift card or flowers or something simple, but even beyond the action, even beyond the gift, why don't you give her some kind words to let her know how you really feel? Maybe you're not getting along with your mother very much right now. Maybe you guys have had a lot of conflict lately. Why don't you just put that away for Mother's Day and tell your mom, say, hey, I realize things aren't the best right now. I realize we still have some things to work through, but I just want you to know I love you and I'm thankful for everything you've done in my life. Man, that will speak volumes. That will strengthen your relationship so much with your mom. That will make her feel so special this Mother's Day. If Jesus could take time on the cross through all that pain to give honor to his mother, I think each and every one of us, myself included, can find a way to show honor to our mothers this Mother's Day. Teens, I hope you don't take your parents for granted. I hope you treat them like the gift from God that they are. Despite the conflict, despite any awkwardness that may come this Mother's Day, I hope you do your very best to let your mom know that you love her. Thank you so much for listening tonight. Thank you for being here. Have a great Wednesday night, and we'll see you soon again, hopefully. Good night.